This is Sharon Jones. She is an ex-member of the board who was illegally removed and a longtime advocate for the co-op and a staunch opposer of going for this refinancing program.
The allocation of the $5 million is to essentially to make our property affordable for another 40 years. We have been through 30 years of a 40-year mortgage. We're due to pay off that mortgage in 10 years, and our affordability restrictions and our restrictions on the sale value are up then. We can make the corrections that are required by the architect who did our needs assessment and updated it. We can do it out of funds like we made the repairs in the 3 months.
This is LaVon McIntosh, who's also a King Garvey shareholder in the corporation, and she also is opposed to this land grant.
We reject the amount dealing with the $5 million. We want our homes. We, the people that know that we should have something available and accessible to us. We recognize that there's a lot of people who don't want certain things, and they're entitled to what they believe in, just like we are entitled to believe the opposite. It is time for us to get with the program. We don't need the $5 million. We want to take care of this situation within 10 years.
And here's Reverend Dye, who's a community supporter of the King Garvey Co-op, has some interesting things to say about the board.
I've talked to co-op members members of the board when important actions were taken without any notice to them, and the one member of the board who was kicked off and had to have a judge order him back on.
Here's Ulysses Montgomery, a longtime supporter of King Garvey, making 3 key points for the Board of Commissioners' consideration.
This whole rehabilitation program is not in the best interest of the shareholders nor the taxpayers. Secondly, the shareholders and the taxpayers are entitled to full disclosure of every item related to the planning and execution of this project. This has not been given. And most important, the shareholders are entitled to have all parts of this project reviewed.
This is Carlos Lavessier, past president of the King Garvey Board of Directors, and I think his testimony to the Board of Commissioners speaks for itself.
My name is Carlos Lavessier, and the first thing I want to do is call your attention to a similar case in Oakland with the California Hotel, where the tenants filed a $53 million claim against Oakland for the same sort of procedure where they evicted people, left the housing vacant, and it happened to actually be the same management agent as John Stewart that was named in this, and that's been going on. Basically, the redevelopment commissioners should delay passing this measure and obtain information on the inappropriate actions that have been blatantly performed in pursuit of this attempt to strong-arm King Garvey Co-op families and force them out of their original agreement. Elections have been manipulated, and an attorney has been installed to represent a board minority. As a board president, one day they just changed the locks and I couldn't get into the building as the standing board president. Another one of my board members at the time was removed from the board through this installed attorney, and had to go to court to say that he was wrongly removed. So in the past era of unchecked corporate greed, this behavior was approvable. But in the emerging era of transparency and accountability, these actions are going to be broadcast from here to Washington, D.C. It will be an embarrassment to at least to each and every person who supports this, and at best a full-blown scandal resulting in criminal indictments. We have sent legal notices which names each of the commissioners to ensure that each of you personally are noticed with regard to the alleged fraud contained in this endeavor. One in the presentation, what we did mention was that the current contract. We said, okay, we're going to enhance quality of life, but you know that's ridiculous. Basically, the current contract is for the people to achieve self-sufficiency through 40 years. This long-term investment, and now 30 years into it, people are trying to change the original agreement and and kill the original contract. So that's not quality of life. We should be going into green building and employing the families, the youth, and putting them on track to become winners as their families invested, as the bylaw. I haven't received a notice of meetings in 2 years. So I don't even, the meeting that set up this hearing, I didn't receive a notice in violation of the bylaws. So I just think it's a risky prospect to move on such shaky ground. And I urge you to take a look closely at these issues, because tenants have been lied to, and it's a problem. Thank you.
This is young Daniel Landry, King Garvey activist and also a shareholder at the co-op. And I'm sure you can tell by listening to what he has to say that although this rehab project seems to be a done deal in the eyes of the board of directors, it certainly is not in his mind, nor in the mind of many of the shareholders at King Garvey. They have not been kept in the loop. They have not been shared documentation and information so as to make an informed decision. Please listen carefully to this man's testimony before the board.
No agreement. I haven't seen an agreement between our co-op and Related. I haven't seen a vote that they speak about when it comes to the shareholders in support of the rehab plan. I haven't seen the rehab plan itself that Related is talking about when it comes to the cooperative. I haven't seen a relocation plan that speaks about, of course, in the agenda package says that this relocation plan is finished. Haven't seen an agreement between the co-op and Overland Pacific. We haven't seen an agreement between the co-op and the attorney that we said we hired, Mr. Williams. We even haven't seen the agreement in 3 years between us and John Stewart Company. We haven't seen the higher security company that we have on the co-op agreement, which expired in 2008. Then to make things worse, no shareholder can tell you the equity amount. So, what am I saying? We need a public hearing. We need a public hearing. We need, whether it's the land use, whether we need to urge our supervisor, whether we need to have a joint hearing between this body and another body, we need a public hearing. Because right now the distrust and the infighting is true between shareholders, between those who represent our co-ops, and unfortunately it's not getting any better. The division have led us to a point now where we're saying, some saying, well, y'all against rehabilitation. No, we're not against rehabilitating our property. What we're saying is it doesn't take $40 million to do it. That's what we're saying. So we need a hearing. And we need a hearing where we can bring all the stakeholders, all the parties into a room and discuss this intelligently. Not out of emotions, not out of people trying to backstab and pay each other back. Not some backdoor deal. We need to get to the bottom of this. Because meanwhile, and it is true, this is one of the original projects, and it is sad that under the watch of all the administrations in our department, this project can go the way and be the first one to fall, which then, comes Prince Hall, Friendship, and all the other projects that we're dealing with. And in the environment of this economic crisis, we should not rush anything. So I urge this body, be very cautious. Thank you.